Probably good.
So all the press kind of gather up over there, get in and see if you can find some space.
Here?
Okay.
No, not you.
Okay. Thank you everyone for coming. All the members of the press, we appreciate you coming to this press conference. My name is Ray Lutz, and I am with the Citizens Oversight, and citizensoversight.org is the website. And we're here today to kick off a proceeding with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. This proceeding is with regard to a license amendment request that the Edison put in and requested as of July of last year. That's 2011. And this license request is for San Onofre to change the technical specifications substantially, removing a lot of the detail from the technical specifications and putting it over into a licensee controlled document, and therefore out of sight from the public so that they can just change it at will. These are critical surveillance frequency specifications, such as how often that they're checking the reactor cooling system, how often they're checking the steam generators have enough water in them, how often that they're checking that there's no leaks from the containment building, this type of thing. So these are very, very critical tests, and they're moving all of this out of the technical specifications, and so we're objecting to this, and this is basically what this intervention is about. So today at 10 o'clock Pacific time, we are going into what they call oral arguments proceeding. They don't call it a hearing yet. The nature of this proceeding is to just determine whether or not we're going to have a real hearing. They put it into this two-step process, again, to make it harder for the public to engage with them. Now let me just bring up a couple of the things that I'm going to bring up during these oral arguments. Number one, Citizens Oversight is here to try to get the public more engaged in their local and their federal and all levels of government. Why? Because if the public is engaged, then we don't have waste, fraud, and abuse going on as much. In the recent history, we had the steam generator debacle, and in this situation, we basically lost about $1 billion. So this is a lot of waste. If they were running now, maybe there would be a lot of people still against running the plant, but at least we wouldn't lose all of that money, time, and effort. So this is waste. And secondly, there is so they've been blocking the public from getting involved in several ways. One is just making it hard to engage in public meetings, as we'll see during this hearing. They're going to put every blockade possible. They make standing very difficult. You can't just be a person who's interested. You have to have an interest in it. Be within 50 miles, and they say be actually injured. And to be actually injured in an accident, I think that's a little bit late before you have your hearing. Secondly, they've been removing detail from the technical specifications since about 1989 systematically, so that there's less and less information in these technical specs, and therefore they don't have to have a license amendment when they change them. So over time, there's going to be almost nothing left in the public version of the tech specs, and all the information is put in the licensee control document and then secretly updated with the NRC without any review from the public at all. And thirdly, they have this rule 50.59, which is the like-for-like replacement rule, again, allowing them to make changes to the plant without ever having to go through the license amendment process. Recently, we had the steam generator upgrade, a huge project involving these four massive steam generators replacing the 2 reactors, and there was no license amendment required. In fact, there is a quote from the Edison saying that they wanted to work around this. They basically said the major premise of the steam generator replacement project was to avoid NRC approval, and actually they wanted to avoid the public process of going through a license amendment and the potential hearings. And you know what would have happened is probably we would have found out that these steam generators were faulty before they got this far along, or maybe we would have stopped it before we spent all this money. because at this point we spent over $1 billion now, both in replacing the steam generators and dealing with the aftermath, and we're getting about as much out of it as we would have if we'd never replaced them at all and just ran the last few years on the old steam generators, the way it was intended to, the way the plant was designed to begin with. So all these things are going to be brought up. The difference between the 2001 cases that they're going to bring up today is that we have a new administration in. And I'm proud to say that Barack Obama, our president, put in some really great executive orders when he on his first day of his office, when he was first elected in 2009, he produced an executive order called Transparency and Open Government, and then subsequently Executive Order 13579, which I call the very odd executive order because I think that's the most odd number you can possibly have. July 14, 2011, which explicitly provided for the public to be involved in more aspects. So this license amendment that is being processed today occurred and was started at about the same time that the president put in place this new executive order that says they have to be more open. And therefore, times have changed. Times have changed such that we can go into the NRC, hopefully, and get them to be reasonable and say, gee, this is not the old administration which was trying to suppress public involvement. This is an administration that's trying to engage the public, and therefore we need to change our ways here, allow a hearing to take place, probably undo and not allow these license amendment changes that removes all of this data from the license, the technical specs of the license, and puts them into the private document and makes it more secret. And then also maybe review this 50.59 rule that was the precursor to this failure of the steam generators. They're referring back to the 2001 case in Connecticut, which was where they had a whole bunch of radioactive effluent coming out of the plant into their streams. And there was a monitoring schedule there, and the NRC says, well, we don't have to disclose how often we're testing that, what levels we're testing that, or anything. That's going to go into the private document. Unfortunately, they ruled that that was okay. And so we're going to have to argue that these changes that we're seeing now are actually more important because we're talking about the actual issues within the containment building that are much more critical, number one. And also I think that decision should be null and void at this point. So we will see how this works out, and hopefully they won't block us, but they have a lot of tools to do so. If they wanted to, they could stop this many ways. So we will see if they're able to embrace the new openness that President Obama has put into place as of mid last year, or if they're going to use their old, tired and torn ways of trying to suppress public involvement and go down this trail of having failures and potentially put the safety of the public at risk. I think this is extremely important, and I hope everybody follows this case, and so we can see that not only can we turn it around here in San Diego and with San Onofre, Southern California, is all of 8.4 million residents affected, but also all of these 104 plants across the nation which are being suppressed, the engagement is being suppressed in the same way. So thank you everyone for coming. We'll take questions in a minute.